Well, there's no shortage of financial advice that's out there, but unfortunately, not all of it is good. This video is going to talk about some of those financial myths that float around that you probably have heard, maybe you'll believe, maybe you're actually following already that could quietly be wrecking your retirement plan. Welcome into Dollars with Dennis. I am Ben George with Dennis Hoare, of course, of Faith 401k and Money Management. We're good to see you. Glad to see you again on this episode. And if you haven't subscribed, please do that. But Dennis, we got 10 retirement myths to break down today. And some of the stuff we're going to talk about today might seem like it makes a lot of sense on the surface, but when you dig in a little bit, you'll understand why it doesn't apply to everyone.
Exactly. How are you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing well. Good to see you. I know we're in the middle of winter going through things, but I'm glad we can kind of flush out some of these and help the people out today. I know education's so important for you, and that's what we strive to do with every single episode. So let me hop in here with number one, Dennis. The more a financial plan weighs, the more valuable it is. That's the myth that's out there that, hey, if I get this big stack, there's got to be a lot to it. So it's got to be better.
Yeah. So measuring it by the pound, I don't know if that works. It could be but it's probably very sophisticated. And if you're not up to having a very sophisticated, high detail plan, then that might not be the right thing for you. But and it might not give you any clarity because you get lost in the pages and so forth like that. So I prefer a smaller version than a 4-pound book.
Yeah. I know it seems like it's great on the surface, but you want to understand it. Simple oftentimes can be better. All right. Retirement myth number 2 here, Dennis. My life is simple, so a will is all I really need. So talk about estate planning a little bit, because not everybody assumes an advisor is going to help with estate planning, but it is, part of what you do. But also, why does it not always matter how much assets you have in order to figure out how much planning you should really be doing?
Yeah, great. So estate planning can be for anybody. It depends on the goals. So somebody could have a lot of money but have it all already marked where it's going, how it's getting there, that kind of stuff. But most people will need to have some estate planning because they probably want to make sure any asset gets to the right people, the right person, and whether that's a trust or a will or a TOD on an account, transfer on death, that kind of thing, so that they can get the people left behind taken care of, at least the way they feel like it. And in my opinion, the trust probably does that the best possible because it's private and it's changeable, and not everybody needs one, but it's a good idea to check and reach out. We can go through those options with you. We don't do the wills and trusts. We refer them to attorneys. That's their job, but we certainly can help push people in the right direction and help them get started with that whole process.
Yeah, it's about logistics access, but it's also about easing the burden on the people that you leave behind. So you want to make sure you're doing that in the best way possible. So don't just assume that a will is all that you might need. All right, retirement myth number 3, Dennis. My spouse will be fine when I'm gone. They're only going to need about half as much income, but the math really isn't that simple, is it?
I love that one. And I hear it too. Yeah, so I rarely see two couples that live on one set amount of money, that if one of them is gone, they're going to be okay with just this less amount of money. So when somebody passes, whether it's in retirement or whatever, Social Security goes down, different things happen there. So budgets have to be prepared, and having a written plan that gets you through those processes are important, because most of the time the surviving spouse is going to need almost as much money as they did together. The house is still the same cost. The taxes are still the same cost. The utilities, maybe food and clothing goes down a little bit. Maybe travel goes down. Maybe it goes up. So I think there's a lot of confusion there. But I think in general, these left behind spouse is probably going to need at least 80-85% of what you have going forward or currently, and maybe even more. So having a plan that can point to that and point out the troubles if something doesn't work the right way, how we can solve that. So that's why we like to do a written plan for every client.
Yeah, and when I hear that number 2, this myth sounds like one that could really get you in trouble, because that's a significant difference. It's not just you expected half and it's maybe 55 or 60, but 80 to 85% is a huge difference and a huge gap that you could be leaving there.
For sure. Got to fill in there for that. And the pensions, when people still have a pension and they don't do anything, it leaves when they leave. A lot of times the joint survivor is only 50%. I'm a big fan of the 100% joint survivor pension. That way you kind of ensure what you're doing while you're living. It still happens when you're not.
All right, we're going through some retirement myths here. Number 4, when I retire, I need to dramatically shift from stocks to bonds. This has been a pretty traditional approach, Dennis, and I think just kind of an assumption people have had for many, many years. But how is this strategy changing here, especially in these recent investing environments?
Well, geez, the market's been crazy for the last 3 years. Stocks are doing so well. Everybody wants to be in stocks. But I think, again, back to having a plan, what does your plan require from a rate of return of your investable assets? So that we want to start there. And if somebody needs to have more risk, more equity exposure to make the plan work, then we're going to recommend that and tell them why. Maybe a calculated risk. We might want to take a little bit more stock exposure in retirement than maybe the average person would, and maybe just the opposite. If they have plenty of money, they don't need to take any risk, then maybe you don't do that. You get really conservative and live off the dividends, the income, the interest, that kind of stuff. So there are a lot of factors goes into it. And longevity, I really get frustrated with people that want to retire before 65, maybe at 58, 60 years old, and are going to live to 95 or 98. I mean, so I always think, how do you save enough money in 35 years to last another 35 years? That is a real big challenge. So setting the right goals and expectations, proper expectations, is critical. In longevity, not everybody is going to live to as long as I am, but my wife keeps saying I'm going to live to 100. So I'm not sure I want to do that, but you got to know your own personal health choices and stuff. And family history comes in there a little as well. But there's a lot of factors go into whether you have stocks, bonds, or both in retirement. And that's where the proper planning will help you get to that answer.
Yeah, it's not just an assumption that, hey, I can make the switch as soon as I get to retirement age. There's a lot that goes into it, as you heard there. So I want to make sure your investment strategy is on par with your needs, right? And it's going to differ from person to person. So again, where planning comes into place. All right, number 5, if the market crashes, I'll just stop spending until it recovers. Is it as simple as that, Dennis? I'm just going to stop spending altogether and just wait it out. What's the approach here?
So I like the people that are completely debt free, but they still have taxes, utilities, and almost and food, and almost the same expenses as when we see houses getting paid off after 30 years, and now the tax rate and insurance with it is almost what the payment was when they were paying on the house. So I don't know that completely works to stop spending. If you could, that'd be great. But typically we want to keep liquid money or short-term investment money available for the market corrections, because they're going to come, they're going to happen, and we want to pull income if we need income from more conservative areas while the market's adjusting and stuff like that. But I've not seen many people being able to stop spending because it could be 2-3 years before the market recovers. So that's a long time to go without spending.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't know what the timeline's going to be. Yeah. 2 years, it could very easily be the case, or it could be a month, right? So, and you're not trying to time the market. We know that's never a good thing.
Right.
All right. Retirement myth number 6. Social Security will take care of most of my retirement income. There are a lot of people that rely on this pretty heavily, Dennis, but is it safe to assume that Social Security will take care of it for you?
Wow. Big question, big myth, I believe. But if somebody can live on Social Security, God bless them. That's I think the average Social Security check is $1,600 a month now, and it just seems like it'd be hard to exist in our world today on $1,600 a month. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen. There's probably people out there to do it, but the bigger part is if you're married, there's 2 Social Securities, and when one spouse checks out before the other one, you only keep one of the Social Security, the bigger Social Security. So you're going to take a reduction at that point anyhow. So knowing your options, knowing how you get there. But most of the time, Social Security is not enough. And if it is, then that's great. But you probably want to have some additional resources in retirement.
This questions always come up about the future of Social Security, and I would be a little nervous relying on that to take care of most of my income. But again, why you plan? Our retirement myth number 7 here, Dennis. I'll be in a much lower tax bracket once I retire. Is that the case?
Well, we hear that all the time, or we hope that all the time. Some people do, and we say that with Roth. You want to pay taxes now, you want to pay it later with the Roth, and so it depends. I hope I'm not in the lower tax bracket when I retire. I hope that I'm in a higher tax bracket because I'm making more money when I retire than I do now. That's my hope. And being in a lower tax bracket is not always fun, because that means you're probably bringing in less money in retirement than you were working. If you're prepared for that, great, and maybe that works out. But that comes back. I mean, how many times do we say that's why we need a financial plan? Because we want to know where we're going to be and what those taxes seem to keep going up in almost every category. So lower tax brackets are going to be hard to be in for most of us.
Yeah. All right, number 8 here. I know you'll disagree with this one. I don't need a written plan because I know my numbers, Dennis. How many people can just know their numbers and be successful?
Yeah. There's a few, maybe one out of 100, and being able to project them for the next 30 years. Talk about somebody living 35 years in retirement. So inflation changes. It's consistent over long term, but markets change. So that's going to be really challenging for somebody to know their numbers for 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Number 9 here. There's people that think I can always work a little bit longer because, if things don't go as planned. I've got that as a fallback option, but that's not always a guarantee, is it?
It is not. And so we've done planning with people where we've had to suggest if you can, you got to work a little bit longer, another year or two, or in retirement, you take a part-time job, but that's not always available. The economy's got to be in the mode for keeping people hired, which currently it is. Your health's got to be good enough to do it. There's layoffs or caregiver responsibilities. You're taking care of a spouse or another elderly person. So there's a lot of things that go on. So it might not be an option. If it is, that helps people get into a better retirement. But I would want it to be a choice, not a must.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The final one here, Dennis. Once I retire, my financial decisions will get easier. Man, that's a relief to think about, but that's not the truth, is it?
You said these are myths, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it ever gets easier, but maybe it gets more consistent. Or once you get, I like people to not do anything different for the first year in retirement as far as spending habits, stuff like that, if they can, so they get settled in, so they know what their incomes are and so forth, because it is, and a lot of people are afraid going into retirement because they've been working all this time getting a paycheck. So what happens next? And so we call that portion paychecks from life. And that's kind of what we try to provide with our retirement planning, how they get a paycheck from their investments or their assets as they go into retirement, and project that out that it lasts as long as they do.
Well, look, the whole point of this conversation is just to make sure that you understand that, look, not everything is guaranteed. Not everything you hear is going to be accurate. Some of it might apply to you. Some of it might not. But the more you understand that, the better decisions will tend to follow that as well. And it all comes back down to planning, as Dennis talks about all the time. Go to 401k.faith to learn more and set up a time to meet with Dennis and the team there, because there's a lot to go through. And as you see, there's a lot that goes into planning. This comprehensive approach that they take will help you out with that, and you'll learn more by visiting the website there. But all the contact information is in the show description as well, so check that out. And please hit subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be back again next week with another video, so hopefully we'll see you again soon. Dennis, take care.
Thanks, Ben.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.